Let's do the internet's messiest comparison the right way. Grammys ratings versus Melania ratings. One is a mass mainstream TV audience. The other is a critic versus audience review war. When people say Grammy ratings, they usually mean TV viewers. How many people watch live on broadcast television? When people say Melania ratings, they're talking about review scores, critics versus audience. First, the Grammys. The 67th Grammy Awards pulled 15.4 million viewers on CBS, per Nielsen. That's a huge mainstream audience, and it's the kind of number only major live events can still pull. Multiple outlets also note it was down compared to 2024, roughly in the high single digits to low teens, depending on how the comparison is framed. Grammys, 2026 telecast, 14.4 million viewers, down 6 to 7% from 2025. Now the documentary, Melania. On Rotten Tomatoes, the snapshot is wild, 7% from critics and 98% from verified audience ratings. That's why you're seeing headlines calling it a historic or record-level gap. Not because the critics and audience disagreed a little, but because they basically lived on different planets. Now here's the key comparison: audience size. The Grammys reached 15.4 million people on TV in one night. Forget the fact that this film is directed by a visitor to Epstein's Island. The Melania documentary had a strong opening weekend for a non-fiction theatrical release, around $7 million at the box office. But that's a smaller, more targeted audience than broadcast TV. Melania, RT Snapshot, 5% tomato meter, 37 reviews, plus 99% popcorn meter, 1,000 plus verified, plus US box office shown as 7.2 millionaires on Rotten Tomatoes. The Grammys are a premier entertainment institution, broad, mainstream, and designed to pull casual viewers. Meanwhile, Melania has been widely described as a fan-driven political event. Even Hagiography in some coverage, where a dedicated base shows up hard, while professional critics are overwhelmingly negative. Close family members were a no-show for her premiere. No Barron, Eric, Lara, Tiffany, and Ivanka Trump. It's directed by Brett Ratner, and it's positioned as unusual for a political documentary because it's doing real theatrical numbers first, with a longer life cycle expected beyond theaters. So the verdict is this: the Grammys win reach. 15.4 million is massive mainstream scale. Melania wins polarization. A 7% critic score versus a 98% verified audience score is an extraordinary split. That doesn't mean one is better. It means they're measuring two totally different things: mass broadcast attention versus fan intensity and review warfare. If you want, I'll do the next matchup. Oscars versus a political documentary, Super Bowl versus election town hall ratings. Anything but this thing again. No comparison.
Grammys revenue. There isn't a single official Grammys revenue total that gets publicly posted each year, but TV ad sales is the most common public proxy. Industry tracking has pegged the Grammys at $70 million in US TV ad revenue for CBS in prior years. That figure is not the 2026 telecast number, but it shows the scale of the event's monetization.
Melania opening weekend. Melania reportedly grossed $7 million opening weekend at the US box office. Who won? The Grammys, because even conservative ad revenue proxies for the broadcast are multiple times larger than a $7 million box office weekend. Who lost? Melania, not because $7 million is bad for a doc, but because it's tiny compared to a major broadcast tentpole. Drop the next comparison in the comments.
It was so bad. J.D. Vance, Kari, Lake, Brett Bayer, Kellyanne Conway, and Kristi Noem said, "We busy." It was so bad, they're going to close the Kennedy Center for 2 years to remove the memory.
Jeff Bezos invested $75 million and he laying off at the Washington Post 5 days later? You smell that?